Hi, I'm John, and you are listening to the Known Experience podcast. We have a great guest today, Stephen Murray. But before we jump into that, I want to let you know about a couple things. Number one is our Known Adventure coming up October 5th through 8th of this year. It's going to be in Winter Park, Colorado. We have this ridiculous cabin that we've rented right looking over the mountains. There's going to be hiking, fishing, downhill mountain biking if you want to partake in that, but mostly great time together with about 10 to 12 men. We're going to have meal times and fire pit time. And it's pretty informal, like it's pretty casual, but the way that we put it together, it facilitates great conversations and connection. So if that's something you're into, check out the link in the show notes or just go to our website, knownexperience.com. Also, if you're a woman listening to this is a great gift for an important man in your life, that you want to just give the gift of time to get away and decompress and connect and be encouraged and inspired. So think about that. The second thing I want you to know about is regarding our guest, Stephen Murray. He is the director of Forerunner Mentoring. And as you're going to hear, they're an incredible mentoring organization that provides guidance and support and encouragement to young men without a father living in their home, but also their moms. Over the last 3 months, they have been robbed and vandalized to the tune of about $45,000. All their vans were broken into, their offices were broken into, and they took all their technology. And so, as you listen to this, I just really encourage you thinking about what you could do to help support the great work that they're doing. There's a link in the show notes to that also, or you can just go to forerunnermentoring.com. Help these folks out. As you'll hear, they're doing great work and they've taken a hard hit this year. So, with no further ado, let's jump into the podcast with Stephen Murray. Welcome to the Known Experience. Today, I'm really excited to have my friend Stephen Murray on the pod. Stephen, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Sean.
Stephen is right here in Dallas. I will just say unashamedly, he is one of my favorite people. Every time we get to spend time together, I'm glad and encouraged, and he's doing incredible work. He's the director of Forerunner Mentoring, and they are in a neighborhood area of Dallas called Lake Highlands, and their vision is to fulfill the potential of every young man in Lake Highlands growing up without a father figure at home by providing mentoring programs and family support. Stephen, just elaborate on that before we go further into your story. Tell us even more about what you guys do at Forerunner Mentoring.
Yep. Lake Highlands is the most diverse neighborhood in Dallas. So if you think about all of our just lower income housing, there is a huge population of multi-family dwellings in Lake Highlands. 7 of the top 10 eviction filing apartment complexes are in our neighborhood in DFW. And so there's a lot of economic need. And with economic need comes a lot of relational need. So there's 2,700 boys in our neighborhood that don't have a dad at home. And so our goal is we want to get every one of those boys a mentor. We want to create a context for mentorship. So we want to run after school programs at the schools in our neighborhood that are all Title One. And then we want to gather single moms together to provide community to help them flourish and find an identity outside of that pivotal role they're playing for their family. So that's the goal. We want to create a community around the modern day orphan and widow, which is the single mom and the fatherless boy. And that word fatherless is not usually a term that we use. It's just more of a buzzword, because nobody wants to be defined by the thing that they don't have.
Sure.
And we really believe that these boys have the most untapped potential of any boy in our neighborhood. Nobody sees it in them. They have what it takes to be a father, a husband, a leader that our community needs. And so the desire is that we help them realize that potential that nobody else sees.
Wow. You know, the statistics on this area of mentoring have always blown me away. Share with us about the difference that a mentor can make in the life of a young man.
Man, I mean, every single indicator of success, which I use success in quotes, Just when people think about having a wife, a house, kids, and a dog. I don't know if you've heard that song from Swoop, um, but he just talks about, how do you get there? Fatherlessness is usually an indicator of you're not going to get there. Um, Fatherlessness is usually something that is generational in nature, that your mom's dad walked out, and then you're more likely to walk out on your kids. And so there's a generational breakdown there, that is more economic in nature than anything. I don't know if you want me to get into the nitty gritty on why fatherlessness happens, um, but generally speaking, it's one of the greatest indicators of economic uncertainty, of joblessness, of eviction, of uh, incarceration. It all points back to not having someone show you who you are, look you in the eyes, tell you have what it takes, challenge you to grow up into maturity and what your potential is as a human, as just being made in the image of God, having like a clear vision for why you're here, what you're supposed to do, having a purpose, having an identity that's positive in nature, that people are seeing the assets that you have and not just the concerns that maybe people perceive. So we really want to challenge those assumptions that people have about these boys, because in essence those unchallenged assumptions are actually paving the path toward all of those indicators that are so
Right.
negative.
Yeah. I, I think maybe a lot of people don't understand kind of the thankless and the thankless job, right? Or the energy, the personal energy, kind of taking on their story. So what drove you to kind of dedicate your life and work to this?
I was in a park once and a little boy walked up to me, grabbed my hand, and asked me to follow him. He only spoke Spanish. I think he said venga, which I assume means follow me, like
Oh
come
yeah.
with me. And he sat me down on a bench and made me watch him go up on the playground and go down the slide. And I was just really confused. And I was like, I'm kind of like a creeper right now watching this kid like at the playground.
All right.
And so I start walking away, and he comes and grabs my hand and pulls me back, sits me down, and I continue to watch him for about 5 minutes on the playground. And then his mom walks out, and she's just standing there, and she's like begging him to leave to get back in the car. And um, she just tells me he doesn't have a father. And
Hmm.
um, and so I was just sitting there, like in that moment, I sat back down on that bench, and I was just thinking about it's not even just the courage of the boy to like invite me to come watch him, but just how much a boy's heart longs to be seen by an older man. And
Yeah.
that just destroyed me. And I'd hear story after story, of moms even calling Forerunner and saying, my son brings a football to the park every time we go, and he throws it at every older man that he sees just because he wants
Sheesh.
connection. And 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 so she just asked me on the phone, would you be able to get him a mentor? That'd be great. She was actually working at one of the schools we serve. And that image, like, just it doesn't leave me, just wanting to be seen, just to play and be watched and be delighted over, and be encouraged, like be celebrated. That there is a father hunger that is just innate in every human. And I think that's the thing that's kind of gripped me in my own personal story. I mean, my dad was there. He was he he did the best he could. And I think in my own kind of processing and therapy, I see a lot of his patterns relating to his relationship with his father. And I always felt this deep hunger and desire to connect with my dad. I think the one time I felt um, he picked me up was when I hit a inside the park home run. So I didn't get over the fence, but I hit an inside the park home run, and he picked me up and threw me around, like just celebrated me. and like to think back of like all my years of growing up, that's the one memory I have. At least I have that one memory. I think that's the main thing that I kind of motivates me, is that there's so many boys that don't even have that. Since I've become an adult, my relationship with my father has completely transformed for various reasons. But I mean, I'm feeling celebrated. I'm feeling delighted in by my dad as I've become a father. I have a 3-year-old and a 19-month-old, and just how much they hunger to be thrown around, to be delighted in. And I mean, I think my goal in life is to give them my blessing, to look them in the eyes, tell them they have what it takes. Um and that's kind of what's drawn me to Forerunner, is raising up other people in the community to see um that they have something to offer, to give to these moms and to these boys, that's going to help them fulfill their potential. And it's very simple.
I think you highlighted something there that's important to acknowledge, and that is that fatherlessness can either be a physical absence or an emotional and mental absence. You know, there are people that had fathers in their home their whole life, but they weren't present with them. They didn't feel seen by them. They didn't feel valued, and sometimes it's even harder if they're there and they don't care to invest in you than if they weren't there at all. But and I was just talking to a friend last night about part of the problem with the discussions we have about privilege is that we all have our own pain. And so we look at other people and we get told that we're privileged and we think, well, I'm not privileged. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know my pain. And that's true. It's very real. Like we all want our pain to be known by someone. But the problems that you're dealing with is very specific. And earlier you said, you know, I don't know if you want me to get deep into it, but I do want you to get deep into it because we don't have these conversations in the public sector about what are root causes of these things, and you're working on addressing that. But what's the cause of fatherlessness? How does that become so prevalent in a community?
I mean, it's a big challenge. I think even just fatherlessness has always been around. So from the beginning of time, death, divorce, desertion, like it happens. Um, and in many ways, um, being a father was more of like an economic role, that you're raising up your kids to take over the family business, that,
Right.
agricultural society, you want to have as many kids as you can so you can harvest the field, uh, cultivate the land, and just kind of take over. And so I think once fathers die, fathers leave, it creates a hole that um, are in the heart of children, that then is imparted every generation down the line. And I think the deep ramifications of fatherlessness just run at a level that we don't see on the surface. It's, I mean, I think in the same way we talk about alcoholism as like genetic kind of hereditary like dispositions are passed down. What does it look like when your pain trauma of fatherlessness is passed down year over year, and how does that escalate and build up all of this pain that's unaddressed and unresolved, that then affects your future family? Um, I mean, if you have me talk about even in America fatherlessness, welfare, Lyndon B. Johnson, 1964, putting in all of these policies that are promoting, in essence, single parent households, with good reason, trying to benefit lower economic families, uh, end up promoting a household that kind of incentivizes a single parent household from an economic standpoint, not acknowledging the other effects of having a single parent household. Because what happens when you have a single parent? Um, I mean, mom's playing two jobs.
Yeah.
Mom's nurturing, she's disciplining, she's putting food on the table, and she's putting you down to bed, and she's just carrying too much. And if she doesn't have a social network that really rallies around her. You know, everyone talks, it takes a village. If you don't have a village, what happens? You get into cycles of aloneness, of isolation. I mean, how many of our moms will tell us in our program that before Forerunner, they had no friends. They were just doing the mom thing, trying to get food on the table, trying to stay in the same apartment for more than a couple years. And so, I mean, I see it from all these different um, perspectives. That fatherlessness is, it's not a monolith. There's so many different stories and experiences that lead to it. But how do we address the needs, the upstream issues? I think is very challenging. And so we've kind of decided, well, the upstream issue for us is the boy who's growing up, who hasn't been told he has what it takes to be a man. He hasn't been given training in what it looks like to take responsibility, walk in humility, live in integrity, act with respect. And um, and so that's kind of my desire, is that we're seeing mentoring boys as an upstream issue, because we want to see where they're headed, their future families, what role are they going to play. That's why we call it Forerunner. So they're the one that's going first. um, they're the one that's going before their family, to really draw a line in the sand. Like many people would say, you know, I want to take my family in a different direction than it's going currently, and want them to aspire to be the forerunner for their future family.
Yeah. So have you found, there's in your past, if your father was an alcoholic, a lot of times that you struggle with that. If you saw violence in your home, you may struggle with that reaction in volatile situations. So I'm not sure how long you've been doing it, but is that